Here we're going to go over our pre-hospital blood. So as of right now, we've got 2 units that have blood staged in the county, which are where as of right now?
3 and 6.
3 and 6, right? Any idea kind of strategically why we placed them there?
Transport.
Yeah, our distance to trauma centers, basically, how long it takes to get from those areas to trauma centers. And right now we only have 2 in the field, so if I've only got limited resources, I'm going to put it in the places where I hopefully can have the most benefit to the patient. There is a lot of data that shows that pre-hospital blood is very effective even when you have very short transport times. I think New Orleans said that most of their transfusions happen in locations that are within 8 minutes of their trauma center, and they still get blood on board and they still see patient improvement in those short transport times. So hopefully as we expand and we get more resources and we get more money and we get more training to the people out there, we'll be able to expand that. So kind of today we're going to go over a few things. How to prep, how we maintain our blood, how we get our blood, then how we set up our blood and administer our blood. So kind of 3 main things. So our whole blood program. So whole blood, what components are part of our whole blood? All of it. The same stuff that's floating around my body right now, right? So what is all of it? I got the red blood cells, which plasma, platelets. Why is that beneficial for us compared to how we initially did it when we had our components and pieces as part of the factor program? I only got to think about one thing. I love that, right? Good.
Not like 2, 1. You know, you're doing 2 of this, 1 of that for every 4.
Yeah, I know. It's like, okay, I don't even remember the order of operations. Luckily, it's written down, but it's like, okay, after 2 packs of red blood cells, then I give some plasma, and then I give some platelets or whatever it is, right? So simple. Yeah. And also, if I've got somebody who's bleeding, right, are they just bleeding red blood cells? No, they're bleeding everything. Right? And so there's other components that's part of our blood that would be useful for us, or useful for the patient, so we want to give them all the stuff that they are losing on the floor, in the grass, inside their belly. So we'll talk about the maintenance, we'll talk about the bi-weekly blood swap, and we'll talk about administration. So first off, our maintenance. So right now, we have what's called the Credo ProMed cooler. So what this is made of is, it's kind of pieces and components. So you've got the carrying case, which is the tan part. That's just luggage. It just helps us carry it around. Thank you, sir. You've got the VIP insulation piece. That's the cube that just helps keep the coolness on the inside. And then the part that we're going to be interacting with the most is the tick phase change core. So that's the part that we change every day. So it's in the freezer. We've got one that has the blood inside this whole case, and then we've got one that's always in the freezer. It has a material in it that's a phase change material that's very efficient at slowly releasing cool energy and keeping a consistent temperature on the inside. So as it transitions from a solid into a liquid, it will slowly release that cool energy. And that's the principle behind it. I'm sure there's a lot more physics behind it, but that's as much as I understand about it. That's how no matter the brand that's out there, they all have some sort of phase change core that maintains the temperature of the blood. That's the piece and part that we have to really deal with and work with properly to ensure that we don't damage our blood. It's in the freezer. When we take it out of the freezer, it's extremely cold. It takes some time to get to a temperature that won't damage and freeze the blood. And that was the biggest challenge for us when we first started implementing this program, was how long do we wait? When is it ready? When can I move the blood from the cooler that it's in now into this new tick core? And so that is what is the big piece of the puzzle that we can't mess up in the morning. And it takes some time to get used to. We've got 2 pros back here, Karen and Shia, who have been doing it now for a year. And since we've got that in place, that system in place, we haven't had any issues. But what I will say as we go through is, if you have any questions, follow the guide, and then call somebody if you do have questions. These two subject matter experts probably know more about it than I do because they do it every single day. All right, so what's important about keeping our blood viable, keeping it good? So the blood must remain between 2 degrees Celsius and 8 degrees Celsius. Now, those are the temperatures in which we want to keep our blood. That's not to say that that's the absolute temperature. Those are kind of like the guardrails that we put on. There's some room on the outside of those, but we never want to stray off the side of the road, because as we start straying off the side of the road, it's very quick from the soft edge of the road off the cliff, right? It doesn't take a lot of movement. So if we keep us between 2 and 8 and we never deviate between that, then we don't have a chance of hitting the guardrail and going off the cliff. So too cold or too hot, our blood's going to get damaged. It's going to lyse. It's going to break down our blood cells, and they're not going to be useful to the patient. They may even harm the patient if we freeze them or if they get too warm and they lyse. And for us, why that's important, first off, blood's a limited resource. Right? They have given us this blood, and they've given us possession of this blood, and they've said, take care of this blood. You can have this for 2 weeks. And if we continually damage blood, first off, somebody now can't get that transfusion, and then we're going to lose that trust that we have with the Nova Blood Donor Services, and they might not let us use their blood. The second part, which is important but not as important, is it's $550 that we pay out of our pocket whenever we damage a unit of blood. So if it goes out of range and we go, oh, sorry, I messed up your blood, Rocco gets a phone call and then he gets a bill for $550.
If we use the blood, is it $550 as well?
As of right now, yes. If we administer the blood, it is $550 as well. And that's just the way it is. We're, maybe hopefully one day as systems change, we'll be able to either bill that to the patient or bill that to the hospital, whatever it is. But yeah, we get charged if we use it as well. But don't think about that. Don't be like, do I want to give this $550? How much do I want? Okay, so let's keep it between 2 and 8. Okay, so here's the video right here. This is just going to be an overview of how to do the morning Credo Cube core tick blood swap in the morning. Hopefully, will I have audio? I'll mime it if I have to.
This video will give a brief overview of how to do the morning swap for the Credo Cube blood cooler and offer some brief troubleshooting tips. Written instructions and troubleshooting guide can be found on the freezer or by scanning the QR code. Conditioning the Credo Cube core is a critical part of the process and cannot be skipped. To condition the core, remove it from the freezer and remove the lid. Now set a timer for 35 minutes to let you know that conditioning is complete and the blood swap can begin. After conditioning is complete, bring your current blood cooler into an air-conditioned space to begin the swap. Use the IR gun to measure the temperature on the floor of the new Credo Cube core. The temperature should read at least 3 degrees Celsius, or the blood may freeze and be ruined.
Checking the temperature of this one. Make sure that's good. 4.7, so that's good.
Open the sensor push app and record the current blood temperature. Now you can begin to move the blood into the new core.
This over here. And this way so it keeps it all neat. This one here. And I'll check that. Make sure it's white.
Ensure the temperature dot remains green over white. If it is green over blue, the dot has been activated and the blood may no longer be used. Be sure not to place your hand or finger on the temperature dot as it may accidentally trigger. Using the Survey 123 app, complete all the required fields.
So I have to scan it.
To include, scan the barcode and check the expiration date. Now quickly transfer the temperature sensor and the blood into the new Credo Cube core. Tightly place the new lid on the core and securely close the cooler. Place the used core and lid back in the freezer to prepare for tomorrow. Now place the cooler with the blood back on the unit, ready for deployment. It is critical that the blood stays between 2 and 8 degrees Celsius. If the blood goes out of this temperature range, it cannot be used on a patient, and the department will incur the cost to replace it. If you receive a temperature out of range notification, immediately begin following the emergency procedures. The temperature sensor in the cooler needs to be connected to the internet to continuously monitor the temperature.
We'll move past that because we have moved to a new system there. Yes, sir.
Can I just speak some life to encourage, uplift, and exhort? So it's helpful to know from whence you came because it gives you inspiration and helps you continue to grow. I'll say that way back when we used to try to do therapeutic hypothermia post-cardiac arrest as a system, we did not succeed in that endeavor because we didn't maintain saline and ice, saline and slurry. So we'd come by and in the station, it'd be like 80 degrees in a cooler with the saline. And that didn't really put us in a position that we felt confident we could move this initiative forward. But man, we have come a long way. We've tightened up our ship, we've gotten better, we've gotten stronger, we've demonstrated greater commitment to this endeavor, and this is cool as we are poised to take additional steps forward. So encouragement, exhortation, keep it going.
Yeah, and I really want to give props to these three, and the other people who worked at EMS 6 and EMS 3 getting that stuff off the ground. There was a ton of troubleshooting, a lot of investment from them to figure out what pieces we weren't quite doing right. So without them kind of being really dedicated to it, we wouldn't have gotten here. So I really want to give props to you three and the others that are riding those positions. Yeah.
John, if I could add, I was EMS 6 the other day, and in 15 minutes, because of the humidity, I guess, it was already like 6 degrees in the bottom of the box.
Yeah. So, there's some variability with the temperature in terms of the surrounding temperature and how fast it gets conditioned, how fast the core gets conditioned. Generally, the 35 minutes is like a good, if you're at 35 minutes, you generally don't have to wait any longer, but the temperature gun is a good way to kind of prevent us from freezing that blood, which is really the challenge that we had at the beginning, was it just being too cold. And so having that minimum of 35 minutes, you might have some times where that seems a little long, but overall, at least we'd rather be a little high than too low, as long as we're within that 8 degrees. So remove the steps again, remove the core, set the timer, wait that at least 35 minutes, check with the IR gun, make sure it's at least 3 on the IR gun. I usually point at the floor. Sometimes I point in multiple places. Just kind of, you're going to have different varying temperatures based on different parts of the cooler. I just kind of do it and then kind of go, okay, on the average it looks to be above 3. Is that how? Do you all have any other tips for how you all do that?
That's right.
Yeah. Just kind of point at several different places, make sure that it's...
I just make sure the lowest one's above 2, above 3.
Yeah.
Because the other one might be a little higher, but as long as one side of the box, as long as the whole box is above 3.
Yep.
Because it will be different, and it's probably just how the water shifts in it when it's freezing. I'm sure it's thicker probably on one side than the other. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, but it's that phase change material. It's changing at different times. So yeah, point at multiple different places and make sure the lowest one is at least above 3.
But Captain Harrington's right. In the summertime, the really hot, I would say the 35 minutes general rule, 9 months out of the year. But in those really, really hot months, I kind of check it after 15-minute mark. I'll check it like every 5 minutes.
Yeah, check it every 5 minutes after 15 minutes. Yeah. What do you got, Chia?
So the sensor we have on the blood itself now is very sensitive. So if you swap it with Bay at this time of the year, notice that it spikes all the way up.
Yep. So
from the advice from you and Dr. Dan, we now take it back into the office in a controlled environment and swap it there. But you still have to be fast. That's the first thing. The second thing, the gun. what I noticed some people doing, especially callback people who are not used to it, when they try to get the temperature, they don't make sure that it's not in the negative, right? Because once you start, it's going to be -7 or 8.
Right.
To 0 and then positive.
Yep.
So they just don't look at the number, they don't see the minus in front of it, so you have to be very careful to make sure something.
That's a really good point. So you're looking at the IR gun, you're checking, and you're like, oh man, I'm at 3, when it's really -3. So make sure you got to go through 0. That's a really good point that I didn't think about. Yeah. And the point he was making about the temperature, the actual sensor push device, right? Which is the thermometer that stays in the Credo cooler. When you're swapping that over, you want to keep that out of the ambient air for as small a time as possible, because it changes very quickly. So if you take it out and you look at it and you hold it out for, 15, 20 seconds, it's going to spike and it's going to set an alarm off. And the blood's going to be fine, but what that will do is it'll send alerts to all of us. And then the reason we like to keep the data good is, for any reason the blood happens to go bad, that the temperature dot goes bad, if we can prove to them, like, hey, all of our data is good, I don't know what happened to this sensor, there's a good chance that we don't have to lose that $550. So trying to keep the data as good as possible. So moving that temperature sensor, like, okay, I take it right out of the old core, put it right back into the new core, put the blood on top as quickly as possible.
What are, and it may be written somewhere, what are contingencies? Let's say you go to switch it out, you open up the freezer and someone unplugged it or something, or tripped a breaker, and you don't have a cold core in the morning.
So luckily, these things are rated for approximately 45 hours of keeping blood in temperature. So you have time if you, and this has happened before, somebody forgot to put it back, in, they got busy, they got a call, they come back midday and they're like, oh crap, I didn't put the core, the used core, back in the freezer. It's not like you've got another 24-ish hours that you can keep the blood in that core, and so hopefully you'll have time to troubleshoot, get the core cool, and then swap it later. Yeah.
Before you move off the core, just one other thing, you are going to get a call inevitably when you're like halfway through the whole process.
Yep.
Right. My advice is throw it back in the freezer, take your call, and come back and start the process.
And then restart the process over.
And just be aware it may thaw faster, because depending on how long you've had it out, but it does have. I mean, my first priority in the morning is blood, and if you run a call before, in the middle of it, don't be afraid to just throw the cooler that you're trying to thaw back in that freezer, and take it out again and start the process again when you get back.
And don't try to nudge the temperature. You're like, oh man, I just overshot it. I'll put it back in the freezer for just a couple of minutes or something. It always screws up. I've never had it successful. If that's the case, just start the process.
Yeah.
Like Karen's saying.
And I think they say they fully condition if they're in a proper, from thawed to condition, it takes 3 hours, right? Is what the manual says. So, give it.
So if you forget about it because you're like, oh shoot, I got busy, it's been sitting there forever, back for 3 hours, knowing that the 45-hour mark, and then, just keep an eye on the sensor system to make sure you're.
Yep. Yeah, so the biggest alerts that we get, again, changing swapping the blood in the hot bay, especially in the summer, and then kind of just keeping the sensor out for too long. So just being really aware that, okay, keep it cool, right from one core, right into the other. And then the blood's not going to go over temperature just in those couple seconds that you're scanning and that you're looking at the expiration date. That's not going to make the blood get too warm. That's a good bit of volume, but that sensor is very, very sensitive. All right, so we talked about the 3 degrees. If you get over 3 degrees, go ahead and swap. If it's colder than 3 degrees, just wait another 5 minutes and then keep checking until it is at least 3 degrees at all your points. Okay, if there's a lot of condensation on it, especially if it's a hot day, just wipe it off. That just helps keep the blood product dry. It helps keep that temperature sensor from malfunctioning, because when it gets moisture in there, it will eventually go bad. We have backup sensors. We know at some point they will go bad, but that just helps it last longer. And then our temperature dots. When you're looking at the temperature dot, they just instituted a new temperature dot at Inova Blood Donor Services. So if it's white in the center, you're good to go. And if there's any red, at that point we say the blood's no longer good and we need to go swap it out. They say that if that has some red spotting, they say it's still good, but you need to get it in the freezer right away. We're not going to play that game. We're just going to say if there's any red in it, it's not good for us, and we're going to go ahead and swap it. They can determine themselves if they want to use that blood, because they can do things like separate it into components and use it in different ways. But that's what we're going to check right there. And I call it the stack, right? The sensor push inside a plastic bag on the bottom, blood on top, make sure everything's sealed nice and tight, and go from there. Okay, Survey 123 app, that says you're gonna put when the expiration date of the blood is, the blood unit number, that you've checked the blood dot color sensor, and the temperature that the sensor was right before you swapped the blood over. And then you're gonna put the old core that you just removed back in the freezer. All right. Any questions about the swap? Again, take your time. Walk your, especially the first few times you do it, have that guide with you. Read the guide first. Go step by step. This is one of those things that you just want to have a good understanding of the steps and what you're doing before you dive into it, so that you don't accidentally mess something up. But I'm confident that you all can do it. So this is just a little background of how our current temperature monitoring system works. So after a lot of trial and error, this is what we landed on that was most reliable. So we've got the sensor push sensor, this little square thing that's inside of the cooler. That's what's continuously monitoring the blood temperature. Every minute it grabs a temperature, sends it up through the internet to our system, and then we can see it on the app. That's what the app looks like. So we've got one for EMS 3, EMS 6, kind of shows their temperature in Celsius. So the IT behind it. So we've got the blue blood gateway. It's this big square rectangle box with the antenna. That connects via Bluetooth to any sensor, right? So the two blue things connect to each other. Now, this thing needs to talk to the internet. So we have a cradle point cell modem that's connected to our sensor push gateway. So that's how it connects to the internet, and that's how it shoots stuff up to the cloud so that we continuously monitor. So the things that need to happen is these two things need to have power, and you can look at the lights, right? Make sure that it's got power, it's got connection. There's a blue light on the front of this to make sure it has power, and then making sure that these Ethernet connections are properly inserted and haven't popped out. Those are kind of the major things that might go wrong. So that's kind of the background of how that works, just so that if there is ever any communication issue, you kind of understand how you might go about troubleshooting it and getting everything online. Now, because these two things have to talk, the gateway and the sensor, whenever you take that blood somewhere outside of the vehicle and away from this gateway, it's going to start sending little alerts that's like, hey, I haven't gotten a blood temperature reading in 15 minutes, just letting you know, right? That's okay. You take it on a call, you bring it inside for MSEP, whatever. That's not a big deal. You know the reason that it's lost connection is just because you're not at your vehicle. That's fine. And those are those new temperature dots that Innova Blood Donor Services has started using. And the reason they went to it, we were having some issues where we would have our color temperature dot kind of start to like turn blue, and we'd be like, I don't understand why this is turning blue. All of our data is perfect. I suspect they were having the similar issues as well, and so they went to a different manufacturer for their blood temperature sensor for their dot, is what I suspect, but can't say for sure.
There's usually like a chemical reaction base, so things that cause it to oxidize faster.
Yeah, like water, moisture, things like that. Yep. Somebody had a question. I thought I saw a hand. Kenny, do you?
I did. I figured it out.
Okay, cool. Well, you can ask it. Dude. Somebody else might have the question.
No, what I was going to say, you're talking about bringing it in for MSEP or stuff like that. If you lose connection and temporarily the blood goes out of range, will that record that? And so that you'll know that.
It will, yeah, that's a good question, yeah. So the actual temperature sensor device records the data, backs up the data, and it's like some ungodly amount of days. Yeah, so as soon as it reconnects to the gateway, it's gonna dump all that data in there, and then we'll be able to look back. Absolutely, that's a good question. All right, so this is how we swap our blood right now. So at any point, if we use blood or at our bi-weekly switch, so right now we swap our blood every other week for each unit. And the reason we do that is so that we give it back to them with an expiration date, and they can put it back into their system to either deliver it as whole blood or separate it into components and use it and be transfused somewhere else. So it's kind of being stewards of blood the best that we can. So if you're doing your 14-day swap or you're resupplying after you give it to somebody, you got to drive to Loudon. That's the way it is right now, but that's the way everybody has to do it in the region. So it's on Noakes Boulevard in Sterling. You drive there to side Charlie of the building. They supposed to have a doorbell. I don't know if they ever got that fixed. And you just either ring the doorbell or knock on the door, and you just do the swap. You give them the old blood. You get the new blood. You fill out the survey 123 form with the new blood unit number, the W number, and the expiration date. And then you come back and you've got your blood. All right. Anything to add important about when you go do your swaps at Inova Blood Donor Services?
One thing that I think is very important is we have to scan the blood code to put in the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
In most cases, it's on the blood thing itself. So people hold it out, and then they're using the iPad to scan, and you can scan something else and have the wrong number.
Yep.
You have to do it all over again.
Yeah.
So to solve that problem, once we're swapping blood at Loudon, we ask for an extra sticker
Mm-hmm.
you can put on the bag itself outside.
Yeah.
So when you do your swapping, you just scan that sticker. You don't have to be holding
The blood.
It's kind of very important. And the reason I say that is because blood was swapped at EMS 6 on Saturday, but it was a callback person who did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
So they have the old sticker on the back.
Right.
So another person comes behind them and scans that sticker.
They won't know.
That is that whole thing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's something we need to pay attention to. And as a group, communicate that and make sure it's the right sticker.
Good, I like that. So he's saying usually the W number, right? You've got the W number printed on a sticker on the blood, but they also have like little other separate sticky barcodes. Mm-hmm. And what they like to do is stick those barcodes on the bag so that when they're doing their check every day, they don't have to like hold the blood up or have the blood in their hand a long time. They can scan that W number barcode that they put on the bag. But what's important to do that is make sure that the barcode that's on the bag is actually the barcode that matches the blood that we have in use at that time. So if somebody forgot or there was some miscommunication, just double check that very quickly. And definitely making it that may be something we can put into normal practice is getting the W number barcode at swap and putting it on a bag so that we're all on the same page with that, and that's kind of like a common practice. That's a good point.
There's a million on that blood. I mean, there you could peel off 10, right?
Yeah.
And like all over it.
Yeah, I believe on the blood
Yeah,
itself, there's like little peel-off barcodes. They're like tiny, so you could just peel those off and use them. And those are meant for like during patient care. If you've ever been to the trauma bay, they're all reading off blood numbers and double checking and peeling off, and then each service gets a sticker. I don't know what they all do with it, but
Real quick, John.
Yeah.
They'll give you a receipt when you go to get the blood. Just leave that in the bag, because sometimes when you go back in 2 weeks later, sometimes they'll ask for the receipt, sometimes they won't. Just make sure it's in there.
yeah, okay. So put the receipt they give you with the blood.
I would say the only thing I would add to that is if you actually use the blood, make sure that you bring the cooler with you, because you may, how things get in a trauma, because you want something to make sure that make sure you close the cooler and put it back so it stays cold during that call. So when you go get the blood, you have a cold, you might not want to go back to your station, especially
if you're over by
at
Fairfax. Yeah.
Then you have a cooler that's ready to go. If you've shut it, put it back in the brown case and kept it, cold, then you can go swap the blood right away and put the new one in it, because you didn't leave it open. If you left it open, then you're gonna have to go back to the station
And recondition. Yep. Yeah, that's a good point.
No big deal, right? It's just some food for thought.
Yeah, and you did a good job on the very first one. You had it closed and you were ready to go. But yeah, you know how trauma calls can go. People are doing a million things. People are yard selling things, right? And if you leave that cooler open, now it's not going to be cool enough to go get new blood. So you'll have to go back to your station. You'll have to recondition a whole new queue before you could go get replacement blood. So just being aware, I take the blood out for administration. I set it up. Make sure that the cube is closed up and ready to go to stay ready for new blood.
Or swing by EMS 3 on your way to the lab.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
I mean, that's not a bad
Save me an
idea.
hour.
Where are they going in 2 weeks? 1 and 2, or?
Oh, okay. So that's a good question. So initially, they are going to EMS, 1 and EMS 2 in a week, and that's just because the captains already have that training, and we have the infrastructure built for those rigs. That's the reason. So hopefully, in very short order, we will be expanding the program and putting them in more places. We're not exactly thrilled about the locations that they are right now, but it's the best that we can do in the short period of time that we have. So once we get the infrastructure built for the rest of the vehicles and we work out our logistics process, we will slowly be building them out to other, to ALS chases or whatever we're calling them, right? So that we can expand the program. But what that will entail is probably like a, what do we call it? Like a beta program where we give you all some fake blood and that we work on maintaining that for a period of 2 weeks so that you're all confident in the process before we start putting the real stuff in there. And that's what we did, the same thing we did when we implemented it with the EMS supervisors.
And I think the logistics of the swap, right? We talked about that.
Yeah, so we don't, right now we just got 2 units every other week cycling through Loudoun to get to swap blood, right? What we don't want to do is have 6 units having to go out of county. That's not the most efficient. So we're working on the logistics of the backside so that hopefully we can have some sort of courier process so that we go get a whole bunch of blood. We either go to stations or meet you all at a centralized point. You get the new blood, somebody takes the old blood, and we take all the old blood back to Inova Blood Donor Services at one point, at one time. Kind of shortens that. You all would still need to know how to do this in case you use the blood, right, for a patient. But all that logistics and understanding and playing that out, we'll have to get figured out before we move forward with that.
Do you use the blood? When it's going to go with the patient to the trauma center, right? So they'll document all that, something in that patient's chart or anything. Do they want any information at the blood center to get a new unit?
No, so we'll make sure that we, and I'll talk about this a little later, we'll take a picture of the blood that we use as part of our EPCR, like it makes you, it stays red. So we'll take a picture of that, but all the blood stuff stays at the trauma center.
Yeah.
So the tubing, the unit of blood.
But they don't care about at the blood center?
No, yeah.
How's that work? You fly the person and then you don't grab your photos beforehand? Do you just drive to where they go?
You could
do it, or is there an option?
Do you have the number of the flight medic? No. We haven't really run into that yet. I mean, optimally we could talk to somebody and get the.
We can always get in contact with the flight crew.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's Fairfax One, they literally have a cell phone for the helicopter, plus the easy ability to say like, hey, we're all employees.
Or we'll call comms and be like, hey, we need to get that W number off, a picture of that blood.
If for some reason we have
As part of the
air care or
notification,
somebody else, it'll be
the administrative pieces on the tail end, because there is documentation that we need to complete, and we do need to let the blood services and AdVers know if it was given.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to demonstrate their value, because they help make the resources available to us. So we're trying to not burden the frontline providers with that. As part of the notification is that then you give that to us and we carry that burden.
Yeah. So.
A picture of the blood that you need, or is it just the W?
It wants a picture. It wants the picture of the W number, is what it wants.
We've been tracking that for 2 weeks.
So if you already have that in your bag, then.
I guess you could. I guess you could take a picture of the barcode that's on the bag.
We'll
Yeah.
have the paperwork.
Yeah, or the paperwork. Either one. It just wants the W number, and it wants a picture of some sort. So you could, as long as you have the right W number, and I'm sure you could take a picture of whatever document has the proper W number on it. So whether it's just the barcode or whether it's the receipt, something, right? So yeah, you might not actually need to take a picture of the actual unit of blood. You just need a picture of something with the W number on it. And Dr. Weir's exactly right. So if you administer blood, we have an internal form that, and I'll show everybody the link. It just asks for basically incident information for the unit of blood given, and that will come back to us on the administrative side, and that way we can send out all the there's like 2 separate forms that we have to fill out, one for Inova Blood Donor Services, one for Envers, and we'll take care of all that administrative stuff on the backside, so you all don't have to worry about that. So you'll just fill out the one form that just has like incident number, why you gave it, the W number. We'll go to the back end, look at the incident, get all that patient information, and we'll get that patient information to the blood group so that you all don't have to do that.
Is that the Survey 123 form, or is that?
It's a separate Microsoft form. I'll show you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where does that live?
Right now, it lives in an email that the EMS supervisors have, but everybody will get it. Don't you worry. I'll write that down right here. Oh, okay, so this is kind of the blood setup that they have now. This was an invention of the EMS supervisors. So trying to put everything in one place so that when you grab everything, you have everything you need to administer it. So they took an old tier 1 bag, put some foam, cut it in, the blood lives here. It has the VIP, it has the tick inside. It's got the blood warmer, well, the blood warming controller, all your drip sets, all your blood delivery devices.
Can you go back to that, John?
Yep.
So that's the receipt right there above the QuickFlow, right in that net. Yep, that's where you keep it.
Receipt. Then they have extra battery, they have the blood warming block, as well as other like pressure bag, Y spike kits, things like that in there. So you can just take that bag to the patient and you'll have everything you need to deliver the blood. This was iteration number like 3 or 4 from what we initially started with. So
Yeah.
The big challenge that came from having the blood separate from the administration stuff is that the first time that this was clinically indicated on the scene, the QuickFlow got yeeted underneath of the buggy that brought it. So the blood went with the patient to the hospital with no ability to administer it. So they did eventually, we threw administration sets in with the blood itself in that second device. But as you guys, because again, y'all are the folks that are driving this program forward, as you come up with ideas, don't just be thinking about like, it'd be cool if we carried this. It's also, okay, in what setting am I going to use it? How am I going to get it to the patient's side? What else do I need to have with me to make it work for the patient? And having one bag that I can move from vehicle to patient versus 3 bags from vehicle to patient makes a big difference.
Yeah.
While also tempering the Sherpa of, I've got an 80-pound backpack versus something that's actually a move.
yeah. And you know, we talked about this a little bit under logistics of running a call, right? If your blood isn't somewhere near the patient at the time you're ready to transport, the likelihood of that blood getting used on the patient is low, right? So this kind of lets you, okay, I'm going to bring it to the scene or bring it to the closer to the transport unit so it's there if we need it, and we're ready to go. We're not hindering our transport times, being like, oh, hold on, I got to run back to my buggy, and making our off-scene times worse. So these are all the kind of the considerations when we look at how to logistically get blood to the patient.
Yeah. And it is convenient. I've been called to Prince William for mutual aid for blood once, and all I was parked so far away, but all I did was grab that bag and just go to the medic unit. I didn't even ask any questions. We just took off. And then if I need it, great, figure it out on the way.
Yep.
If not, you don't need your, most of the time, ALS bag. Just grab the blood.
Yeah.
Right, and just go. And I'll take it with me on some calls, just in case, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the only thing I have that's different than what they have. So.
And I love that, right? Like you have a call where you have a patient that's kind of like borderline in terms of their vital signs, right? And you're like, okay, they're not there yet, or they're not there at all, but their mechanism says that they could be somebody who could administer it. Take it with you, and then if you don't use it, okay, that's not a big deal. The blood's still good. But if for some reason during transport that patient reaches the threshold when they need it, you have it right there.
Yeah. And that's what's nice, having it all in one big backpack.
You're also able to, obviously, most of us are coming at this position from the perspective of providing that advanced care. There may be instances where you still need to be on the scene to either manage patient care for multiple patients, or maybe there are multiple super sick patients. This is online medical control for all of our paramedics, so you can give that whole bag to any paramedic, especially if they've already had the conversation with Weir or Dan to hey, are we good to give this? And you don't necessarily have to accompany that. Specifically, we had a hypothermic patient that was in near drowning who they didn't need the blood, but they needed the Quinn flow for the fluid warmer. So, all right, just take it all. And if for some reason you need it, you have the ability to call.
Yeah, we talked about those logistics a little bit about like, okay, you arrive on scene. If I got one critical patient, okay, I'm focusing on care for that one critical patient. If I've got multiple patients now, I need to do a little bit more scene logistics and triage. This is a resource that any of our providers are allowed to administer. We all have to call, we all have to make the phone call to one of our docs, either Dan or Weir, but they can administer it and we don't have to be with them in order for that to happen. Would I like to be there? Yeah, because like we're probably going to be the people who have the most reps on it and it's kind of cool, but we don't have to be there.
Speaking of notifications, if we're running with, say, Loudoun or Fairfax City and we use their blood, do we still need to make notifications?
If we're using their blood, no, they just have to go through their notification process. Yeah.
They follow their protocol.
Yep.
Not a bad idea to shoot an email so that when someone's like, did we give blood? No, now we know.
Yeah.
We use Fairfax City or Loudoun or Arlington's blood, just so that when someone asks, hey, how did that go? We'd be like, it went great. We assisted the other agency.
Yeah, and Dan's pretty good about keeping on track of that. He usually knows like, oh, like he'll be like, yeah, we gave blood. It was Fairfax City's blood. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. Gwomp.
If we give our blood to Fairfax City or like mutual aid, how does that work for our documentation? Like a EPCR, like without duplicating, but also.
So obviously they're going to need the same W number and picture on their EPCR, but what we'll need to do is that Microsoft form that I talked about. We'll still need all that information in terms of patient information, W number, so that we can loop back with Inova Blood Donor Services and everything and close that loop.
So I just need, like, do I need their incident number as well?
Well,
or the technically should be.
If it's Fairfax City, it's going to be the same incident number.
Like Prince William.
Yeah, I would try to get their incident number, or I guess we could probably, honestly, those should be matched. The CAD should have matched them. So we really just need our incident number. Because it should, if we're running mutual aid, it should be like, okay, this is the incident number we're on, and within the CAD data somewhere should be where Loudoun or Prince William's incident number is.
So I don't need like an MRN or any of that other stuff?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's like a regular EMS assist, right? But you just documented what you did.
Yeah, and that's a good point, right? So if we are, if we're providing patient care, right, and we're doing something from us, we can just do a EMS assist, right, and we can put blood administration, I believe, and we can add medications and procedures to that section, or if it would be a treated and transferred, I guess it would be.
I think it might.
Yeah, if we're delivering care.
Yeah, see previous discussion, I think that's what we said is that's a treated and transferred.
Yep.
So that gives us the ability to document it with the rigor that we would otherwise do.
Yeah, so
EMS assist would not meet that.
Yep, so not EMS assist, take that back. The treated and transferred, even if we went with them, right, it would be treated and then you're transferring care to them who's has the transport unit.
You've been contracted to carry out a directive, to carry out something that you're adding to the call. You should be documenting what you're doing, you should get credit for that. That should count as, hey man, that goes on our stats. I hit that RBI, I want that.
Yeah, I know, like I ran a shooting with Fairfax City the other day where we did give blood, and I know I did a treated transferred mostly because I wanted credit for all the IOs I did. I'm like, man, we were.
IOs did you do?
I did too, and I wanted credit for both of them. for all of them, I did all of them. All right, so any questions about the logistics of movement, storage, conditioning the Credo Cube morning swap, any of that stuff that we talked about? Karen first, and I'll come back to you, Chief.
I just wanted to say to Captain Winstead's point, we did discuss in the EMS supervisor meeting about any provider giving blood, and there was differing opinions on the familiarity with it. So strongly recommend you socialize all your the people in your zones with that bag so that they do feel comfortable. If you're like, here you go, gotta go, and they're like, oh cool, I've seen this before, I know how to do it, I've been trained on it.
And what a great opportunity to step into the role of coaching, mentoring, sharing.
Yeah.
You've got cool toys. Everybody wants to look at cool toys, so it gets you around the table in a productive way as you begin to integrate into that role.
Yeah.
earlier there was the picture of the brown cooler.
That's got, so basically that was just a carrying device. So the brown part they got rid of, and the pieces that were in the brown part are now in the bag here. Yep, so that was just a bag. Yes, EMS 3 and EMS 6 are set up the same way right now.
How long does the sensor push last?
I've only had to replace the battery on EMS 3, and that was like after a year. EMS 6 is still going strong, even though I had to replace that device once. So like I would say probably average of a year at least the batteries last. And it gives us an alert that says like, hey, your battery's low. And it's like a special real thick like button battery. It's not like your regular button battery, but we have those extras. Okay, what you got, David?
If you're out all day, say for some reason you're out for 6 hours, is there any concern about the temperature exceeding, or is it pretty good about?
What I would say, these devices are pretty good, but if you're going to be like at a place where you are parked in the sun for a long period of time, same with like our drugs ideas, I would bring that bag inside and not let it cook in a car. So like I just think of like, same thing with your drugs. If you're at training, you're somewhere, the car's out and it's hot, either keep that running or bring the blood inside.
But also on that note, if I may, John, the inverters are always running on these things to get that internet. Just always running. So just bear in mind that's another thing draining your battery, and that's producing heat inside the vehicle. I just leave it running all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not good for the environment, but it's good for our blood, so, you know, we'll take it. One of the, like I said, it'll send that alert if you take the blood away from its sensor. Winstead had his blood in here last week because we were in here. What I did, because I didn't want to keep getting the alerts in my email all day long, because it does get annoying after a point, is, did I pass it? I just took, it's just one plug and it's inside, it's all contained on this black metal piece, right? I just unplugged that, took it off the Velcro in the rig, I brought it in and I just plugged it in here, and that way the sensor was close to the gateway, so that way at the end of the day, I didn't have like 27 emails that were like, your blood hasn't been communicating yet. You don't have to do that, I'm just saying that's a way to get around that.
Question for you. When you open it up, you're getting ready to administer it, and you have it all hooked up, how long do you have before the blood goes bad before you can actually administer to the patient? For example, if you're on a car accident or something like that, extrication, you're trying to get everything set up.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would say that any period of time that we have it out and we're with patient, I don't think it would go bad in that short period of time.
If your intention is to actually give it.
Yeah.
You don't leave it at 2 degrees to 8 degrees.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah,
so as long as you're giving it, all right.
Yeah. And if you've decided we're going to give this and you have it out, yeah. But once it's out for any period of time, and that's the thing. And we're going to talk a little bit about logistics here. Only take it out. See you, Chief.
See you.
Only take it out when you know, like, okay, I've hit that threshold, I'm gonna give it. We're gonna talk about how you can set up everything, like right up to the point of blood, so that if you're kind of like not sure yet, you have 95% of everything set up, and I just gotta add the blood to the picture. But once you've opened it and you've spiked it and you're ready, like at that point, that blood belongs to that patient now, whether you gave it or not, is what I'll say. So that blood's done, yeah.
So one thing to remember, if you're swapping over to a reserve unit, make sure you grab that.
Yes, great point. Great point, Chia. So, and the reason we put this all in a little pack is, again, this is the IT for the blood. So if you switch over to a reserve unit, this needs to go to the reserve unit and needs to get plugged up to an inverter, right? If you drive away and you haven't taken this, now we no longer have contact. We no longer can monitor the temperature of the blood actively. So this is one of those, of all the things that get switched over when we go to reserve or back to our front line, that needs to get switched as well. That's a very good point. Thank you. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about the protocols. Okay, so there's kind of 2 populations and then 2 flavors. So there's the adult and the peds population, and then within those populations you got the trauma and the non-trauma. Okay, so that's kind of how we're going to talk about it. The important thing to remember is that for us, if we think we need to deliver blood, we need to make a phone call to either Dr. Weir or Dr. Avstray. Right? We need to make that phone call, have that conversation, and get the thumbs up, thumbs down. Right? So for any of these protocols that we're going to talk about, make the phone call. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay, so first population, the one that most likely we're going to run with is adult, right? So we'll start with the trauma, because trauma is usually what we're going to use this for. That's going to be our most common scenario, is a patient who's experienced some sort of trauma. So indication, strong suspicion of hemorrhagic shock. So hemorrhagic shock means shock caused by what? Loss of blood. Good, because we're giving blood, right? It's not they had nausea, vomiting, diarrhea for 2 days, right? Hemorrhagic shock, okay? Then their blood pressure needs to be below 90, and they need to have a shock index over 1. So both of those need to be true, okay? So how do we get shock index? What's the calculation of shock index?
Heart rate divided by.
Right? Heart rate over systolic blood pressure, right? So generally, that means that I will need to have a heart rate that is high, right? And generally a BP that is low, right? So those are the patients that generally, you just keep it simple. High heart rate, low blood pressure. Physiologically, if I had somebody in hemorrhagic shock, does it make sense that my patient would be tachycardic with a low blood pressure? Absolutely, right? Is that part of the compensatory mechanism? I am in hemorrhagic shock, my heart rate's going to go up to try to compensate, and then if I'm actually in shock, it probably isn't going to be able to keep up, so my blood pressure is going to go down, right? All makes sense. And I know you all know this. I'm just saying this as a way to kind of like socialize it, and then as you go out in the world and you discuss it with other providers so that you can kind of solidify how that works. So if they meet those criteria, blood pressure below 90, shock index above 1, they meet the criteria for blood, make the phone call, give the unit of blood. If for some reason we had more than 1 unit of blood, we got multiple units, we got Fairfax City, we've initiated the factor protocol, whatever that is, right? We can keep giving units of blood until they are either above 90 or their shock index is no longer above 1, right?
Question for Doc Weir. Is there a point where you want us to be switching from whole blood to component therapy? Like, let's say in the future we've got a bunch of units out in the field. Where would you like us to draw the line saying, hey, factor actually needs to be activated for component therapy versus whole blood?
For acute hemorrhage, at the point at which you don't have low titer or whole blood.
Okay, so as long as we have it, keep using it within guidelines of asking the questions, why aren't we still giving it in the hospital?
It makes the massive transfusion a whole lot easier.
Okay.
Buy the pre-mixed Kool-Aid, don't try to mix the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. In the sense of in the acute setting of hemorrhagic shock, when you're trying to stabilize, you can see that in the trauma bay. They keep giving the whole blood, and then they're like, wait a second, they're out of whole blood. It's still far away. Okay, we'll give a couple of packs of red blood cells because that's what we got. You know what I mean? But not their first choice. Okay, so now non-hemorrhagic shock. So a patient, non-traumatic hemorrhagic shock. So a patient has hemorrhagic shock, but it's not from trauma. So what are some situations that you all might imagine where somebody has a life-threatening acute hemorrhagic shock?
Like bleeding esophageal varices.
Esophageal varices, I like that. What'd you, Tim, you said? I didn't hear you. Severe GI bleed, good. Any other ones? Those are the two that come to my mind.
AV fistula.
Oh, AV fistula.
Some people might count that as trauma, so okay, I got you. But yeah, if you're spurting out of an AV fistula to the point of being in hemorrhagic shock, yeah, you are.
Yep. So basically, if they were losing blood somewhere and it's causing them to be sick, right, we can give blood for it. This is going to be exceedingly more rare than our trauma. Just remember that. Keep that in mind. But it's there in our protocol if we need it. And same process, 90, less than 90, shock index over 1, make the phone call. What do you got, Adam?
Me?
Yeah, you look like you had a question.
Man, you read my mind, bro. So we're not concerned about like how hypocalcemia when we're giving like back-to-back?
It's a good question.
Yeah, great question. So since we're not carrying large volumes, we're not that concerned about hypocalcemia yet. You know, if we were using like a factor, you're entrapped, it's prolonged on scene time, and we're giving a significant number of units, then you know, we may include that in.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other benefit of having the contact, so we know where we are in the resuscitation.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, just in the small volume amounts that we're giving, the data isn't there to show that it's beneficial right now. That might change. Different places are doing it differently. I know New Orleans, they have calcium with all their blood, but that's the choice they've made at that point. Yeah. All right, now I do this every time. Okay, kiddos. Okay, so kids, again, usually going to be trauma versus medical. But otherwise, it kind of fits the same algorithm, except now we got to do a little bit of math because we all know that kids don't have the same normals, right? So, strong suspicion of hemorrhagic shock. They're hypotensive based on that magical age-based systolic blood pressure of less than 70 plus 2 times age in years, right? So, less than that. And shock index. The shock index we're going to use is going to be based on their age. So you basically go to their age, go to the shock index we're looking for. So anything at or above these numbers, we're a go for giving blood. And this is ATLS based is just what we decided to go on. The data's the numbers are slightly different but very similar for all the pediatric blood transfusion shock indexes that we looked at. So this is kind of just the one we chose. I don't know, I don't know if I ever did, and I wanted to put that on like a card somewhere with the blood. If we didn't do that, we should do that. Just so, or hand heavy, yeah, we can. Both, yeah. Both the card and on hand heavy, just so it's something that we can look at and decide at the moment, do they meet that shock index? Okay? So first, I'm going to calculate my blood pressure and look over my shock index and calculate my shock index, and then if they meet those criteria, again, make the phone call to either Dr. Dan or Dr. Weir. And I say that over and over again because this is not like your regular physician online medical control. This is not calling like Fairfax Hospital and can I talk to a doc, right? This is one of those rare circumstances where you must call one of our 2 docs. Not that you can't call them for other things, this is just the one that you have to call them for. Okay, so if they meet that criteria, our weight-based dosing, we did 10 milliliters per kilogram, weight-based per administration of blood products. So calculate 10 times their weight in kilos, we'll give that volume. If they still meet that criteria, as in blood pressure too low, shock index too high, we can continue giving those 10 milliliters per kilogram until they are over those threshold, until they're over the threshold of blood pressure or shock index. Make sense? Clear as mud? Cool. All right, and again, same thing. You can do non-traumatic hemorrhagic shock for kiddos as well. Probably less likely like one that was tonsillectomy post-surgery where there was massive bleeding, something like that. They're usually going to have less GI bleeds, I would say. But it's there in case we need it. Again, exceedingly rare, but the option's there. All right, so thinking about always, are they getting better? Are they getting worse? Are they staying the same? And then doing that constant reassessment and deciding, am I going to deliver more blood? Right? Am I going to do another round of that 10 milliliters per kilo? Right? And you're going to be looking at those trends, right? Hopefully, what should be happening if my blood products are doing their thing and helping my patient? What should be happening to their heart rate? Should be decreasing, right? Hopefully their blood pressure should be coming up. So you're kind of making a determination even before you get to the max, your total 10 is like, okay, does this look like we're trending in the right direction quickly, slowly, not at all, and then kind of getting ready for that next dose of 10 milliliters per kilo of blood.
cap refill, end-tidal CO2, all those markers of perfusion.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that whole picture, right? Their end tidal hopefully should be coming up as they're perfusing more. Their cap refill in kids especially should be getting better. And I've never had, I mean, I've seen it in the trauma bay plenty of times. I've never had the benefit of, or the privilege of doing it in the field, but from what I've heard from people, they really see a amazing improvement in their patient's appearance and vital signs when administered blood for the appropriate patient. So, yeah. All right, so last thing to discuss is consent, right? So this is really, this is something that is part of all medicine, right? We know this. We need to get consent before treating and transporting our patients. It's at the front part of our EMS manual. So it's no different here, but what is different is there's populations that are, how do I want to phrase it? That
religious exceptions.
Yeah, have religious exceptions. Their religion does not allow them to receive blood transfusions. In those communities, in Fairfax County and surrounding areas, there's large populations of those. So knowing that, we need to be even more considerate and even more aware of that, and really be cognizant and be diligent about asking our patients, if possible, hey, I think I want to deliver blood because you're really sick. Is that okay with you, right? Asking them, okay? Now, a lot of these patients, they might not be able to answer, right? So, in that case, we need to be diligent about looking for jewelry or other things that might say, hey, I do not consent to getting blood transfusions. So whether that's jewelry, checking their wallet. A lot of times I know Jehovah's Witnesses will have a piece of paper in their wallet, going through that, seeing if it's there. You just do your best, right? If you looked and you didn't see anything and at the end you happen to give blood to somebody, you just need to have done your due diligence to properly get consent, right? We've had some conversations with the religious communities here in Fairfax County. The county has a interfaith section in the government. They have quarterly meetings. I've spoken at their quarterly meetings, given this information to the group for them to disseminate in their newsletters. So hopefully they have an awareness that this program exists, and that now that they know the program's out there, if they don't consent or they want it to be known that they don't consent, hopefully they'll make it obvious to us. All right, and we already talked about documentation, right? Somebody brought it up earlier. So all the blood product stays with the patient at the hospital, but what we need is that W number and a picture of that W number or unit of blood with the W number, whatever that is, on the EPCR. It will be read until you do those things. All right, so now let's talk about administration. So, I only got 2 of these, so you're gonna have to all gather around. So, what routes can I administer blood? IV, IO, right? So IV or IO. What we found, obviously, when we're working in time-urgent situations and sick patients, it might be more difficult to get an IV, and it does work via IO. So one thing that we have found, and Karen found this when she had delivered blood for the first time, it was pretty difficult to get that blood in through an IO, even with the pressure bag. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. It's pretty viscous, right? Even when it's warmed up, it's a lot bit more viscous than fluid, and IOs are generally have more resistance. And what I thought about was going back to what I know about how IOs work is, to get through from the bone marrow into my bloodstream, I've got to get through these Volkmann channels, right? These channels from the bone marrow into my blood supply. And those open under pressure, right? So if I don't have a lot of pressure behind something, but I have something very viscous, I'm trying to put something very viscous through a very small tube. It's not going to go very well, right? So what I need to do is I need to get those Volkmann channels open as large as possible so I can get that blood in. And the way to open those Volkmann channels is pressure and speed, right? Very forceful flushing. So That was kind of my theory, how that would work. Now, I ran this call with the Fairfax City a couple weeks ago where we were giving blood through IO. Wasn't going in very quickly. I said, let me try my theory. I took the blood off. I took a flush. I pushed that thing in so quick and so hard, put the blood right back on. It's like night and day. That blood was like going in like now, right? So understanding how our body works, understanding that before I get that blood going, right before I get that blood going, I want to put a flush on there and just open those Volkmann channels up with forceful flushing. I think that's probably going to be the best thing for us.